Hello and welcome back to San Juan County Council's Tuesday, July 28th, 2020 regularly scheduled meeting. We have just gotten out of a recess for lunch. It is now 1 o'clock. Call the meeting back into order or into session. We left off with the discussion regarding personal property and setting a public hearing. We are now into an action, acceptance of a statutory warranty deed and conveyance of a conservation easement deed for the Cypress Island Holdings LLC property, Orcas Island, Lincoln Borman, Land Bank Director. Lincoln, are you available?
I'm here.
The floor is yours, sir.
Can you see my slides?
Not yet.
Not yet.
All right, present. Okay.
Oh, there we come.
Okay, good. And I'm hoping you received my materials in advance of this. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. Obviously, it's different from the first time we talked about this project in that now we are talking about an addition to Turtleback Mountain Preserve, which excludes some of the other parcels we had been talking about, known as Haida Point. So this is what we've got currently. Just zooming in on what we're talking about. Sorry, to this page. So this is actually 36 plus acre property. We have a donor who has put up the money to purchase the property. We entered into a purchase and sale agreement, actually transferred that to the Preservation Trust because it was tied up with the other parcels. So now what we're ready to do is have these two parcels direct deeded to us, with us paying some of the closing costs, but otherwise, it's a great donation. It's a fantastic addition to Turtleback. It gives us access down to the road. This is, you can see somebody coming into West Sound by boat has a good potential actually to get to that corner of the property, assuming we put a trail in there and hike up onto the mountain without walking all that way on the road. There's limited access to the shoreline on this piece because it's so steep. You can see, I'll give you just a shot of that. That tells you what we're talking about. There is a nice small cove down there, but really pretty hard to get to. However, we do think there's some nice picnic spots on that side of the road. So hopefully at some point we'll have a trail that goes over there as well. But that's all to come. And the main thing here is that we're getting this additional acreage. It does connect Turtleback down to the water. And gives us that upland area, which is really pretty consistent with what we've got in Turtleback. This is just a shot of that upland area with, you can see some Scotch broom. We actually had the Youth Conservation Corps out there, even though we haven't taken title to the property. You can see some of the after in that inset shot of removing some of the broom from this area. But good restoration potential, some Gary Oaks on it. Really a fantastic piece of property. And what can you possibly say about getting 36 acres with waterfront handed to you? So with that in mind, what we're asking at this point is for the council to pass a resolution to accept the property. And at the same time convey a conservation easement to the Preservation Trust. This basically just extends the existing conservation easement on Turtleback, which the trust holds, to these parcels as well. So really pretty straightforward.
Mr. Stevens, do you have any questions?
I don't.
Mr. Watson?
Yeah, so this is the Dickinson property, right?
Yeah, so the company is Cypress Island Holdings. Make a note that Cypress is misspelled. That's the way it was registered as a corporation. So make a note when you're doing a corporation to spell words correctly, because otherwise you'll see them over and over again.
Right.
But yes, Kathleen Dickinson is the principal behind Cypress Island Holdings.
Okay.
So,
Nope, no questions.
So, Lincoln, I have one question here. There is a large percent of this parcel that has county road through it.
Yes.
And at some point in time, there may be a desire to put a bike path or a pedestrian pavement kind of path to connect Deer Harbor to West Sound if we didn't go through Land Bank property or Turtleback. And this would be the only place to do it. So I guess my question is, with this conservation easement to the Preservation Trust, are we able to build some kind of a bike path that's suitable for bicycles and pedestrians if at some point in the future we care to do that?
Well, we should be able to. I mean, ordinarily, when a road improvement is done, if it's going through a sensitive area, like if it's going through a land bank preserve, we ask for a letter of condemnation or potential for condemnation from Public Works to do that kind of project, which we don't have the ability to say no to. Neither does the trust. There's often some compensation that goes along with that, but in this case, since the property is donated, I think we would have no problem working it out. It is pretty steep, so it would be a technical challenge, I would say, to do it, but we should be able to.
So just so I'm confirming, at some point in time, theoretically, if we wanted to put a trail here, this conservation easement to the Preservation Trust wouldn't prohibit that?
Correct.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Council, anything else? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve a resolution to accept a statutory warranty deed on the Dickinson property substantially in the form attached in Exhibit A. Number 2, approve the conveyance of a conservation easement to the San Juan Preservation Trust substantially in the form of Attachment B. And 3, that the Land Bank Director shall be authorized to execute all documents necessary to effect the purchase of the conservation easement deed and any other necessary closing documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept a statutory warranty deed on the Dickinson property substantially in the form of attached in Exhibit A. Approve the conveyance of a conservation easement to the San Juan Preservation Trust substantially in the form of attached B. And 3, that the Land Bank Director shall be authorized to execute all documents necessary to effect the purchase of the conservation easement deed and any other necessary closing documents. Any other questions?
Nope.
So saying all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you very much, Lincoln. Thank you for shepherding this project through. It's a great win for the land bank and for the community, and I look forward to whatever the master plan is on how to provide more public access to that section of Masker Bay and West Sound. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, our next item is an action item approving the interlocal agreement between San Juan County and the National Cooperative Purchasing Alliance by and through Region 14 Education Services Center for purposes of bidding / purchasing with Mike Thomas, County Manager. Mr. Thomas.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hughes.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I don't know who sent this over, but I'm going to guess that, so anyway, just to back up. So this, there's an entity, it's kind of like the Washington State Department of Enterprise Services, and this entity works on behalf of nonprofits and local governments, including counties, and they're a clearinghouse for contracts. And so they go out and they get competitive bids on different things from technology, security, furniture, transportation. So I think they have like 90,000 entities that contract with them. So what we're looking for is a partnership where we can get the best price, and I believe this is for the AV technology that the courts are going to use their CARES funding to improve the AV system. So this is just a simple form of an agreement that we enter into a National Cooperative Purchasing Alliance. We can terminate at any time, but allows us to piggyback on their procurement process to get goods and services that we may need. So we've done this both in Public Works in a different organization, but a similar concept where we have access to competitive bidding, but all the bidding part is done by this organization and not by the county.
Great, thank you. Mr. Watson, any questions?
Nope.
Ms. Stevens?
No, yeah, my question was, is this a different organization than we use for Public Works? But that was answered.
Great, thank you. And Mike, one just simple question to follow up what Mr. Stevens is saying. Do these different cooperatives, do they purchase different kinds of supplies?
Yeah, some of them special. This is a very broad spectrum of stuff for this organization. Some just focus on public works equipment. Some focus. We actually used one a couple years ago to purchase some equipment for dispatch. So some are specialties and some are what I call a clearinghouse because it's a broad array of stuff. But it's an organization that goes out and gets competitive bids from different manufacturers or whatever. So what it allows us to do is to contract with them to get their pricing, which ultimately saves us time having to go through our own procurement process.
Great, thank you. I have no further questions. At this point, if council is ready to move forward, I accept a motion for approval of the agreement.
Mr. Chair, point of order. This resolution's already been approved on the consent agenda.
Correct. Then I guess we don't need to do anything.
Well, go darn it.
I hate to approve it twice. You waste one of my valuable approvals.
Bill, good eye as usual.
My apologies for having that not. I was wondering where that document was when the consent agenda came around.
I didn't actually have a document in my consent agenda part.
That's what I'm saying. I was wondering where that was. And
how did you figure that out, Bill?
Well, it's listed on the consent agenda.
Perfect. All right. Well, my apologies to the council. That item is completed as of this morning. Next point is for council member updates. Mr. Stevens, would you like to start?
Yeah, I'll start. I thought it was really good to participate in the survey and to start getting some numbers behind what we think we see out there. And I'll be interested to find out where that, I can't remember who it was who mentioned there was a new EDC report about the PPP money and where it went in the county. And I'm not sure where that is, but I'll be interested to see that.
I can forward you a copy. I think we were all sent. It's from it might have been from John Gomez. It was about a week ago. And it was just a forward summary from Commerce or SBA or something to the EDC of all of the participating and awarded grantees in the county. I can forward that to you if you'd like, or.
Well, I'll look it up. I just, okay. We had a meeting with the Northwest Regional Council last week. There were several issues brought up concerning COVID. The regional council has taken the approach of holding back some of the money that they have gotten directly from came directly from the feds through the state, because it's going to be a long-term situation. We're hoping, though, that the state doesn't take a lot of the money that goes to long-term care, particularly for seniors. And Ricky might want to add to this. And so that's going to take probably a lot of lobbying with the state health Department of Health, because it's the way the state can use that cash elsewhere rather than in long-term home care for seniors. And a lot of these people have mental health issues, so it kind of ends up being, a self-fulfilling prophecy of the people lose the help, then they're homeless, and then they're in our jails. And it says, the director said, Dan Murphy, just because you don't provide the service they still are living in our communities. So it's just the burden is shifted. And I was on a call related to the Puget Sound Partnership and the idea of net ecological gain concerning GMA and shorelines is definitely somebody's going to make a run with it again this legislative session. That's all I have.
Mr. Watson?
I don't have anything really updated. I just have a question for you or Mr. Stevens. Any more word on the potential emergency legislative session this fall?
Jamie, would you like to tackle that?
Yeah, they're not going to have one. The governor feels they have enough money to get into session, so he's not calling one, and somehow they're going to have to come up with some sort of funding package. And with an election year, nobody wants to be trying to raise revenue and be up for election right now. So they're not planning on having one.
Okay, so they'll punt the revenue generating question until after the election and deal with it in 2021.
Right.
And is 2021 a short session or a long session?
A long.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, Bill?
Nope, nothing else.
Jamie, thanks for the updated Northwest Regional Council. I don't think I really need to say anything. You covered that quite well. Do we need to speak to Bill about the letter that's coming out? I guess we'll just wait for the letter to do that. But
yeah.
Anyway, so I'm sure many people heard about the Friday, yet again, another ferry subject to bring up. And I apologize to everyone in the county and to my seatmates and staff. But there was a hiccup on Friday night where one of the boats came up short by 2 crew members. They were able to find one replacement, but and Jamie, I'm a little bit off on the Lopez sailing, but I think it was like the 7:15 or 7:30 sailing to Lopez was canceled, as was the 9:05. And they priority loaded the Friday Harbor boat prior to that. I'm getting a little confused in the whatever, but the last 2 sailings didn't happen because they didn't have a crew and they had all worked past their Coast Guard sanctioned hours. So 200 cars with reservations were left in Friday Harbor Friday night with the boat sitting there idle because they were short one person. So
in Friday Harbor or Anacortes?
I'm sorry, in Anacortes.
Thank you.
And to say I spent 2.5 hours. Maybe not as productive as they could have been, but working with Bill Pike and Jim Corman and trying to speak with someone somewhere. I have a feeling that part of the issue was that once they found out they were short a crew, between having new staff in Anacortes and having most of the decision makers furloughed in Seattle on that day, which thank heavens those mandatory weekly furloughs are now over as of the end of this month. There was no one to make a decision to find, or there was not enough time to find another crew person to run a boat. We had the same problem yesterday, but they were able to address it early enough, and so they took a crew person off of the Yakima, closed the top deck of the Yakima to let the next boat sail. So, we're having, not only do we have a reduced schedule, that is smaller boats, and the boats are 30 to 40 to an hour late every time. Now we can't even fill the crews that we have because of not only the 165 folks, but I also feel like there's maybe not appropriate communication between areas to find replacements. So I apologize to just all those people that had a reservation. It's just such a shame on a Friday night. But we will continue to work up Bill Pike, who's a volunteer out of Skagit County, and Jim Corman, who's our chair of the FAC, and I have been working with ferries to come up with some options of how to cover this in the future, which is usually just limiting walk-on passengers to some of the sailings to close the upper deck so we can transfer the crew to another boat. So I know it's way long-winded, but I apologize. We will continue to have issues with ferries as we move forward.
Rick, what is the crewing issue? I mean, you've got X amount of people that are trained to run a 22 boat system. Now we're down to whatever amount, and we keep coming up short on crews. So are they sick? Can they just not come to work because they're fearful of COVID? Or, I just haven't quite caught on as to why they keep being short crewed.
Well, there's sort of three layers to it, and you kind of addressed all of it, but there's 165 ferry employees that the governor deemed by age or health commitment or health situation are not able to come back to work until they go into phase 4. So they might have some kind of immune compromised system or age, in the original part when the governor gave all the list for state employees. So there's 165 crew people that aren't there. Then individual crew people, depending on where they, what routes they get on, could call in sick for the reasons you just mentioned, or could not show up. And so there's a lot of them. There has been instances where people have called in maybe fearful, or at least saying they're sick or fearful of exposure. And that's what we're trying to get to is how do we fill at least this reduced schedule, which we're really looking at 12 boats, I think, right now. So we don't have good answers, Jamie, outside of that 165 number that we keep getting told, and that supposedly people are calling in sick for their watches on those days.
Okay, thank you.
You can't really question why they're calling in sick.
Yeah.
Anyway, I apologize. Also, one final thing, a planning commission application has come in for Orcas, and I think you received the application maybe yesterday, if you hadn't seen it before, from the person.
Yep.
If you wouldn't mind looking it over and let me know if you have a chance to speak with him in the next week or so, that would be great, because I'd like to make an appointment soon. I think it came to both of you yesterday afternoon from the person.
Yep.
And that's all I have. So, Mr. Thomas, do you have anything? Okay. Ingrid, do you have anything?
I don't, thank you. Although to mention that we will not be meeting next week.
Correct. So we will not have a council meeting next week. The next meeting date that we have is set for August 11th. Is that correct, everyone?
Yes.
We will not be meeting on the 10th. So August 11th is the next meeting. Is there anything else before we go into closed and executive session?
I don't have anything else.
Me neither.
All right. So we will now go into a closed session to discuss matters pertaining to collective bargaining pursuant to RCW 42.30.144B for 30 minutes, and no action will be taken. And then we will go into an executive session to discuss the evaluation of the performance of a public employee pursuant to RCW 42.30.110(1)G. We should be another 30 minutes with no action taken. We will be finished with both those sessions at roughly 2:30, and we will adjourn after that, so we will not come out to speak. So again, we will be going into closing executive session and adjourning as soon as those are over. Mr. Watson and Mr. Stevens, Mr. Thomas will send you a call.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I think we had a really great day. We powered through a lot of stuff. It was nice to see old things that we started working on pre-COVID coming back and moving forward on some of our traditional business instead of just focusing on all the new business we've been doing. So thank you very much for your patience today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.